I gotta ask, what is that background that you use, Ken? Is that something
That,
familiar to you?
yes, that is from the animated version of the TV show Community
Ah,
about a community college. It's a
yeah.
comedy.
Oh, sure.
And there were animated portions of the show, and this was used as the community room in the animated versions of the show.
Okay. That's pretty obscure.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
animated better than real life. It's
Yeah.
clean.
Right.
Good evening, all.
Hey, Linda.
Hello, how are you, Linda?
I just got back inside from transplanting a rhubarb plant.
Ah, transplanting it from someone else's garden to yours?
No, from one place in my garden to a new place
Ah,
because where it was growing is going to be a garden, I hope.
oh,
Cross my fingers. So
yeah.
I put it next to the other one.
Ah, good. We keep getting tempted with very nice, pleasant days, and then they take it away
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah. Well, let's hope these survive. I got these from, well, my great uncle. They were growing on his farm up in the Catskills when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s. So then I moved and took some of them and to my house in Dwaynesburg. Then when I moved here, I dug them up and I said to my daughters, I'm not moving till fall. You get them this spring, put them in. And then the following year I got them from them. So
That's great.
they've been going for quite a while.
That's really a piece of your history.
Oh yeah. I think of my great uncle every time, I harvest them. I've still got rhubarb in the freezer from last year.
Hello. Whoop.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Skip.
Skip.
Hey.
There you are.
Howdy. Uh, how's everybody doing on this beautiful day?
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah, it
You
is nice. Very
get
nice.
to go outside and enjoy it and all.
Well, you missed it. I was just telling him I got outside and transplanted a rhubarb plant. So
All
I did
right. All right.
what everybody else do.
I planted onions yesterday.
Hmm.
So, excuse me. And had a lot of conversations about zero waste today. So unfortunately, I was inside a good deal of time. Although I did meet with Mike and an old friend we hadn't seen in a while, and that was pleasant. But that was
Mhm.
also inside. So,
Good.
and as you can see in the back, I've got my babies growing. So,
Oh,
and some,
you got a bunch of grow lights.
oh yeah, there's 4 tiers, and you can put 2 flats on each tier.
And the light is in the top of the tier?
Yeah, and it hangs from the shelf from above, and it's on chain, so you can adjust the
Oh,
height as they grow.
oh, I don't know that I've got room for that, but boy, well, yeah,
Well, at my former house, I had this is 2 feet square. I mean, each thing.
okay.
I had a 4 foot one and regular 4 foot
Oh,
crescents. In this house, I had to cut them down.
where
But
did
that's
you
good.
get,
It kept me in check because I always always plant too much.
what are you
So this is
starting? What are you starting in them?
well, early on I had the onions, broccoli, cauliflower,
Hmm.
bok choy, things like that, and they got transferred to the cold frame outside. And now there's tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, more
Mm.
tender stuff happening there. So that's all
My stuff might just have to wait till it's good weather and they go out and start out there.
right.
Mm,
Tough love.
yeah,
So
good.
anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And
Do you
oh,
freeze?
I've got a new pest, which I never expected, which is crows.
Oh,
And those freaking guys, they're huge
and they're smart too.
and they're smart. And they started eating my tomatoes last year. And I couldn't figure out all the bottoms of the tomatoes would be in it. I've got fencing everywhere. How do
They're on the
people do it?
ground. They're on the ground and they're eating them
No,
up.
they fly over the top of the fence, obviously.
Oh my God. Oh my
And
God.
so I couldn't figure out what was. So Steve Chorvis came over with his trail camera. And overnight we set it up by the tomatoes. And sure enough, got shots of these guys going under there and pecking at the tomatoes. It's like,
You'll have to leave them something because if you leave them something, they might take that and leave your tomatoes alone.
Gotta
oh
bribe
yeah,
them.
right,
Something
sure.
shiny.
Now I can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge too.
No, no, seriously, they might do that. Who was it was saying there was
I
somebody
mean,
that had crows or whatever? and they brought him gifts. He gave them food and they brought him gifts. Useless gifts, yeah, but shiny
So
stuff.
so what's that? What's a thing for a crow? What would they like?
You'll have to research that. I don't know. They're not in my yard.
I think buckshot would be a good thing. All right, so how are we doing here with people? Recording, Ken?
Oh, there's
Huh.
7 of us. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, Zach just emailed me. He's going to be late. He got some extra work late, so I want to change the agenda around because I think it's important that he's here for the zero waste discussion. So I'm going to change some things around, but we need some more people here. Hopefully more
Oh,
people
you
show
just
up.
froze on my computer. Did
I-
did anybody else's freeze? You froze on my computer. Maybe it was my connection.
Right. Do
Okay.
you see me? Are my hands moving?
I see, now I see you, but you
Okay.
froze for a minute there.
Right. All
It's
right.
probably my connection.
Okay. I guess this is it.
Wow.
I was hoping for more because this is
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So what do we got? You want to give him another couple of minutes?
Yeah.
How you doing, Mary? Are you in town or are you in Westchester?
I'm back in Saugerties.
All right.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephen's here. Great. That's good.
Pardon me?
Stephen's here. That's good. I had some
Okay,
discussions
Stephen's away.
today.
Love your hat, Mary.
Is that a
Bad hair
Saugerties
day,
hat?
Linda. Bad hair day.
Yeah, I have bad hair days, but I don't wear a hat.
Okay. What's your hat say? Say anything on it? Does it say Westchester or Saugerties?
Bronxville.
Okay.
I've got a Saugerties hat. I've got a Swim Across America hat. I've got a Bronxville hat. I've got a YAMC hat. I've got a lot of hats. I do the hat thing.
You wear a lot of hats, that's for sure.
I do wear a lot of hats,
Yep, yep,
literally
yep.
and figuratively.
So do you, Skip.
Right. Unfortunately. All right. Well, maybe we should just get started. So you got the minutes, and we went over them. Mary and I went over them. Did others have a chance to look at them? And do you have any questions about them?
No.
Is that unanimous? Okay, so
Wait, hold on, Skip. I have just one. I did notice,
What
Kevin,
did you say?
I had one. I had,
It's from Kevin Freeman.
pardon?
I'll be there in a minute.
Okay.
Well, sounds like he's got a message or something.
maybe he wasn't talking to us.
I
So
think.
Mary, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin, in the section that talks about the Conservation Protection Fund, there are 2 strikeouts in that section of the minutes that have to be deleted.
Okay,
Do you see them there?
I'm looking right now. Hang on. In which section, Mary?
The Conservation Protection Fund section.
Okay, so there is a strikeout CAC. I missed that. Oh, and the tax. Got it.
Yeah, there's 2 strikeouts that need to
Yep.
be deleted, right?
Yep.
Right. And then they'll go to Mike unless anybody else has another, correction or change, you can get the PDF ready and get it to Mike in a couple of days.
Yep, get it till
Great.
tonight.
Great, because we're up to date right now, folks. We're up to date on the minutes on our CAC page, which is really
Yay.
important. So
Yay.
thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, for following up with that and keeping that in a timely fashion, because that really is important.
Yep,
That's my
no
only
problem.
comment.
Okay, so we got the approval of the minutes. Everybody, aye.
I,
That's 3. Okay, that's good enough. No, I'm kidding. All right, so Climate Smart Task Force
okay, yeah.
Coordinator, you're on.
All right, I've been talking to Mary, and actually, Mary, since we spoke, I did a little bit more digging, and I zeroed in on feedback on submitted actions that require revision. But I think I'll need to talk to you about which ones of those to follow up on, or if we need to follow up on them to see if we can revise them and get the credit for them. But man, there's an enormous amount of work that she's done, and Mary, you've done over time. Holy mackerel, there's a lot of work in there. Then up for consideration, and I've been talking with Mary about this too, environmentally preferable purchasing policy, but Zach is not here yet, is he?
No, and he's gonna be late, so
Okay.
we can hold it off till
Yeah,
later.
because I'd like to ask if the town currently has anything like a green policy or green purchasing policy in place. And if they do, we'll go from there. And if not, there is a website with green purchasing communities. Maybe it might be advisable for me to share that site with everybody so they could take a look at it too. So we can get points for that. There's anywhere from 1 to 4 points available, depending on what policies the town puts in place, the standards for energy efficiency, recycled materials, locally produced or organic goods, and forest stewardship. So those are the 4 categories.
Mhm.
So that's that.
So do they have to institute the policy, not only have it, but do they have to, is there any kind of?
Yeah, I think there's got to be some way that it's implemented, but yeah.
Okay, all right.
And then I did attend the Funding Futures presentation today. It was the second one they offered this spring. It's a grant. It's actually an upfront grant that's available to towns, not villages, but towns, not cities, towns, and in the 6 counties of Ulster, Dutchess, Green, Columbia, Orange, and Putnam. And it's up to 22,000, that's what it is, but it's not specifically for an environmental project funding. It's mainly for things that we notice that we've lacked. The ability to engage people, get PR out there, find out what people want and need. So they facilitate the community conversation process, but key is you've got to have at least 4 people who are active with this. And the leader is probably going to spend 10 to 12 hours a week on it. So that's, I don't see it as something we can do right now, but I think it is something we might want to look toward next year because it would give us 22,000 to have community conversations to find out what people want, have them with schools, community groups, civic groups, that kind of thing.
May I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Does that person, that group or the leader need to be on the CAC or is
No.
it?
No, it can be
Because,
someone,
because Katie Kanakis at the, who
Oh.
works at the Orpheum leads
uh,
a lot of community, discussions
okay,
at the Orpheum, which is a great place to have them.
yeah,
Whether she would be up for leading that, I know I
right.
may have sent her that information, but either she or Alex is also her husband, Rappaport, is also.
Okay, yeah.
So they might be 2 people, maybe not exactly right now, but could
Right.
engage in that
Yeah,
because they're
because
doing it anyway.
yeah, and they've done it in other communities, and one community, I think it was Red Hook, but I'm not sure if that's the one. But they got grants, and then they plan to go ahead with what do we want? Look at my notes here. Community preservation funds. So once a community found out this is what everybody wants to go for, then they started getting money or applying for grants for community preservation funds, or community-owned solar, fundraising, crowdsourcing. So once you go through this grant process and identify what it is that everybody wants to get on board with, then you look for more money to go for.
Right. That's the only drawback, 10, 12 hours a week. That's a pretty hefty commitment.
It takes place over 1 year, events and mailers, and the other 12,000 for staffing and administration. So you can pay those people. I'm getting a message that my internet connection is unstable, so I hope I'm coming through to you guys.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
So let's suss that out later and maybe we can present it to them. If there's
Yeah.
monies involved for that, is there monies involved for that leader or that group of people?
I think that's what that 12,000 is for. But I don't think we're going to do it this year because they're already accepting applications. And then I don't,
There was a deadline. Is that the one with the deadline?
Yeah. And then
Ah,
they choose them and they choose only 4 communities. So whoever applied can apply, but only 4
yeah.
each year. And then they select them in June, then they meet with them and da. Then they, meet with you and they train you to engage your community.
Maybe if they hold webinars that people can tune in on and we can reach out to a couple of people who might want to just join in the webinar to see what's going on. That
Uh,
might
Well-
you'd help them decide whether or not they want to do it. So,
Well, they have, I'll send the site out, and I know you know it too, but I'll send out the site for anybody who wants to look at it, because they still have the session like I did today was a second of 3 that they're offering
Uh-huh.
right now this spring. So they can watch it. And then they also have, history, I think, of who else has participated in it, but
uh-huh.
yeah. So I think
Okay.
for next year, we start thinking about it now for next year. Yeah,
Right.
but you mentioned someone that might be good for that.
Yeah, well, at least they're already doing it in a sense, but
Yep.
not on as a grand a scale, I think is, but
Yeah,
it's already happening. And also shout out Socrates is involved in that same kind of conversation.
it would have to go through the town, though. The town has to do the application. It has to be a nonprofit, like a town that does the
Uh-huh.
application.
Mhm.
They would have to go through that.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks good.
Mary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question to reflect, to refresh my memory. I remember seeing something about 3 grants. Okay, question. Was there a restriction on the number of grants that would be awarded? I thought I
Yes.
saw 3 at one point
They told me
Or-
they do 4 a year,
for a year.
Yeah,
Okay,
each year from May to May.
okay. And are they matching grants, did you say?
No, they're not matching.
Okay, they're 100%, and it would be $22,000.
And it's upfront money.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And
then
just to be clear, is that that 22, can that be allocated any way that they like, or is there specific requirements for allocation?
they didn't get too much into that, but what they did say was that 10,000 would be to direct costs like events and mailers. So they give you the money and you have to submit the receipts for those kinds of activities, as I understand it. And then the 12,000 for staffing and administrative costs. So maybe your
Uh-huh.
leader decides not to take the money, but give it to somebody else for what other activities they need,
Well, it might be an incentive for somebody who's kind of thinking about it, but
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
send them, $5,000 or something to actually do it. That would be, an
Yeah.
incentive and a, commitment. And
Yeah.
they were getting something for it,
But they've got all the guidelines spelled out, and they would go through everything with you, and they train you and they meet with you and blah, 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 and you can have,
Well, that would
Zoom-
be one thing to find out, if how much of that money could
Yep.
go toward a coordinator.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Writing a note, I can email them. All right. And then Mary updated me on the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Program. There's no new info on that. Remember, we're not sure if that's going to continue and how long that's going to continue, but there's nothing new on that to report. So,
Mhm.
and then all I have then left is the Repair Cafe, Saturday, June 7th, 10 to 2. I know we've got a couple of you who volunteered, but we can use a few volunteers more to help sign in guests, act as ushers. You better write it down. You already volunteered once, Skip.
I'm writing it down so I remember it. I have it I
I'll
can't
be
remember what happened yesterday, so
I'll be in
you'll have
touch.
to remind me.
You'll be on-
What's the time frame that the volunteers?
Well, you can show up at 10 if you want, or you can come early, like at 9 to help us set up tables and chairs. I generally get 2 volunteers from the Blue Cats who come and help set up chairs. And then I have a couple of other in-house volunteers who come in as
Okay.
well to do
All right,
that.
well, let's talk,
Yeah.
see what you need earlier.
But
I'm
somewhere
not an early riser, so,
somewhere between 9 and 10 until 2 o'clock. And
okay,
at
great.
2 o'clock, we wrap things up and put everything back in shape.
Okay,
We feed you. We feed all the volunteers.
all right,
Pizza from Village Pizza, and we've got coffee, and I make chocolate chip cookies. So
great. Stephen, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to ask Linda,
yeah.
a small miniature refrigerator that stopped running, is that a fair game for the Repair Cafe?
If you can haul it in.
Okay, okay.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I was at a cafe, I think it was in Woodstock one time, and somebody brought a dolly in and they had their pool pump on it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
But
this is a lot smaller.
you don't
Thank you.
think you don't think it's a refrigerant? You think it's electrical in nature? The
I think
problem?
it's electrical. Yes, it's only a year old.
Yeah, and
Um,
they'll address it. And we also have an agreement with Smith Hardware. If we have a lamp parts kit, because that's the most often asked item to
Oh,
repair.
yes.
But if it's a part that we don't have, we call Smith's. If they have it, that person boogies on over to Smith's, picks up the part and comes back and we fix it. And they give them a discount on the part as well.
Hmm.
So,
Great.
yeah.
Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Yes, and also what about a hot water heater? The hot
No,
water,
that's hopeless.
what?
Ours
Well,
is hopeless.
it
It's
worked for
13
9
years
years.
old.
Well,
No, please.
all right, all
It's
right.
too heavy to carry anyway.
But it was good for the
Again,
sheep.
my
9
connection is not great. My connection probably is bad because all of a sudden you froze and I keep getting a message that says my connection is unstable.
Hmm.
But I can hear you now.
Okay.
I had a hot water heater the other day. The water was coming in. I just got back to Saugerty, so I'm just trying to get things set up. But anyway, the hot water, there was water coming in, but no hot water.
Yeah.
So,
I
okay.
don't know what to
Well-
tell you, Elizabeth. Maybe you can bring it in, but you're gonna have to deal with your husband and talk to him and see if it's worth it to bring it in.
Okay.
Very,
You
very
figure it out.
heavy, but it was
If it's-
great
Yeah.
for
Okay,
9
why
years
don't
for
you
the
guys
sheep.
talk amongst yourselves?
Yeah, there you go. I like that idea. I like that idea.
All right, so is that it there? Any more questions for Linda?
Um,
Are you done, Linda?
Now I'm finished. If they've got questions, as my teacher history says, I make up answers if I don't know them, and if I'm
Okay,
good, I don't
great.
know the difference. So
Okay, any other questions? Going once? Any other questions? Going twice? Any other questions? Okay, we'll
Actually-
move on.
actually, for me, just one. But is yeah, Pollinator Meadow. Is she here yet or not?
No, she's not, and I expected her.
Okay, me too, because I spoke to her, I spoke to Leslie earlier today about some ideas for that, but I'll hold it until she gets here.
And was she positive about coming then? Because she was yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, she was.
'Cause I'm counting on her because I'm trying to put some stuff in. So that hopefully Zach will be here. So, so Community Preservation Fund. So I reached out, sent all the information that I sent all of you, not only to you, but I attended a Saugerties Democratic Committee meeting and just kind of described it and asked who would like to know about it, and like a dozen people signed up. I sent all them the information. I sent it to Beautiful Saugerties by Janet Azian, and through Susan Weeks, I sent it to the Comprehensive Planning Board. So all the people had that information out, and I got one response asking for more information. So it doesn't seem like, I was hoping to have some people respond, because in that I said, hey, we could speak with Parity from Parity from Marbletown.
Marbletown.
Not Marlboro, Marbletown. I misspoke last time. And he was willing to come and speak to us, but nobody seemed to be up for it here or anywhere else. So it's a big job, and I thought if there would be some, interest in it, we could at least have that, have him come and speak with us, but it doesn't seem like there's that much interest in it. So I'm going to put it on the table for now unless somebody else has any brilliant ideas about pushing it forward. And so that's what's happening there. Does anybody have questions? Okay, Linda?
Yeah, in regard to that, that's precisely what that, for, what is it, Funding Futures would be good for. If that's what we want to put out there, we would hold, or they would teach us to go out and survey the community, find out what support there is, every constituent group that you can think of. And that would probably get the word out there at least, and maybe get some support for it.
Okay, I'll say, I have all the information. It goes all the way from that initial article, which, is kind of light, but gets you interested, all the way through the total Marbletown thing that they did, which is totally comprehensive. So all the information's there.
Yeah, and
Just
that's,
got after people to respond to it, so.
Yeah.
All right, let me see, what do we want to do here? The plastics letter that I sent out. And I just got that last night and I sent it to you last night. And so that's asking for support from the town board for that legislation that I included there. It seems pretty straightforward. Zach responded that he didn't see much problem, although he didn't get to read the whole thing. there's a template for the resolution, which is also included in that letter that you can read. So I just thought I'd get people's feedback on it, send it out, see if you thought it was something that we'd want to push the town board to be involved with. Mike?
Yeah, I think we should send the letter on to them with an attachment with the template and suggest that they support it. I don't see much need for discussion with it. It's to
Okay.
me a good thing and straightforward.
Well, I just thought I don't want to speak for anybody else but me,
No,
but
that's what I'm
part-
saying.
So I'm opening it up to discussion. Mary?
Yeah, I responded a Skip, and what I found as a selling point to add to what's in the resolution is the fact that within the bill, there is a provision for reimbursement to towns for their recycling, for their reuse, for that whole program. And so I thought that's something that we should pretty much highlight if we're going to go forward with this, because I thought that was a really good selling point.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, the other, and I skimmed the bill this morning. I just skimmed it through. I didn't do a deep dive, but it seems like it's going to be a pretty long process because they're looking to establish a plan, and then the plan goes to the DEC, and then there's a funding apparatus there whereby the folks who do the packaging, they are going to be charged a fee, which will then go to to pay for DEC's involvement in all of this. So, and then they set up an advisory council for the program. So it seems to me that it hopefully it will pass, but it seems to me that it'll be a pretty long process by the time they get the advisory council in place, by the time they figure out what the fee is going to be, by the time they figure out what the reimbursement for municipalities will be, et cetera, et cetera. That's just like a little background that I thought was interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment? All right. All right. So I will get it together and send them, and I will make a note that there is funding. Please be aware of the funding in this. And I'll send them the template for the resolution and the bill if they want to read it. And again, I'm sorry Zach's not here, but he actually read over. I'll make sure that he might even put it through him to have him introduce it. I don't know. We'll see what he thinks. So, Linda?
Yeah, I think, as Mary said, I think it'd be important to not just tell them there's funding available, but tell them exactly what the town would get back, because that might give them more incentive to send a letter of support in.
All right.
Yeah, to that point, Linda, to that point, we don't know at this point. We just don't know because the process is going to be in process. All of that will be determined. And what I was kind of looking for, as I said, I browsed it. I'm no deep dive, but what I was looking for then, what would be the burden on the town to get the reimbursement? As we know, you get a grant and then there's this big process and somebody has to go through it and et cetera. So I was wondering what requirements would be on, and it's not established yet. But I think that would be another consideration for the town, because every time there's something to do, somebody's got to do it. And, adding personnel is always a budgetary issue. So just to be aware.
Okay, great. All right. So what do we got here? Leslie's not here. I was going to put her up next because Zach's not here yet. So I don't know about the pollinator meadow. I know she's planning a May get together and for mowing, weed whacking, and she's going to order some new sample plants. Most of the things survive, but there's some fill in to do. So we need volunteers for that, but I'm going to let her set the time frame for that. And she said she did go to an EMC meeting, but I don't know how I don't have any information. She didn't
She's
send me
also
any.
doing something for the Earth Day activity. She's going to be at the pollinator meadow for
Right. And I was hoping Mary was here too, because I sent you out. Did everybody get the schedule for the Earth Day?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to just mention, yeah, that she is doing something and
Yep.
Well,
that week.
I sent everybody, I hope I sent everybody. She finally got a schedule together and it's very good and it's very interactive because it lists everything and you click on that event and it brings up all the information about that event.
Yeah,
So if
Right.
you haven't done that before, do that. You look at the syllabus and you go, pollinator garden, you click on that and it says where it is, what time it is, who's involved. So it's a very good document. It's really
Right.
a very interactive document, really good. And I'm really happy. That's what I was pushing for her to get together and they got it together. And I think it's very good. So,
Right.
and Mary, you have your hand up.
Yes, well, two points before we get off of that. Yes, I also did post it on our Climate Smart Saugerties website. So if anybody goes there,
Great.
you'll see it. I guess the other point, and maybe Linda might want to jump in here on that point, we had looked at whether or not we could parlay that Earth Week actions into a CSC action. And I'll hand it over to Linda at this point because I know she's been looking at it. I've been looking at it. So do you want to pick up on that point, Linda?
Sure, let me share the bad news, right? Yeah, no, it doesn't qualify because we really need to spearhead it. The town needs to be the lead agent with that and come up with a proclamation and be behind it. This is just, and it is wonderful, but it's simply a separate organization that's sponsoring all of these activities at different sites in the town, and it doesn't fit the bill for what we would need for the climate smart points.
Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth, you have your hand
No,
up?
yes, I just wanted to mention that Anchor, our sheep farm is on the tour on Friday from 10 to noon. If anyone's interested in coming and seeing little lambs hopping around,
Yeah.
hopefully the weather will be good. We had a farm tour scheduled for the weekend, the Saturday that it snowed, so it was canceled. It was a Dutchess County one, but the Earth Day one is is on. So I hope that you might be interested in coming to see.
Which
See the
Friday is
farm.
that, Elizabeth? Which Friday is that?
It's the 25th, April
The
25th
20th,
on Earth
okay.
Day, from 10 to noon. So should be fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So which entrance do we come in? Do we go into the main one or the one over
Well,
by,
one needs to park your car is on Minder Street anyway, but you walk in because just to avoid all the congestion of, cars. It's basically a single driveway, lane driveway. So we're asking people to park their cars on Minder Street and walk in and out. It's a pleasant walk if the weather is good.
so you're asking me to come in by the stone,
Yes, by the stone pillars.
because that's a significant walk.
It is. It's a quarter of a mile, but if it's in nice weather, I mean,
That's why I was asking because there's the other entrance over across from the barn on Minders.
yeah. I mean, it's not through.
You don't want us to come in that way. You want us to come in that other way.
What's the other way?
That road by the barn on Minders.
No, that goes through Arrowfield, but we don't want to use that one.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm
Yes,
asking. Okay,
verboten.
right. I mean, Mary might want to come, but it might be quite a walk for her. So have your heads up and maybe you would allow her to drive in if she wants to come in. Because
Yeah,
she has
or
a
we could.
she has a little bit of an impediment, so it would be a quarter-mile walk for most people's okay, but Mary might have a little bit of trouble. Is that?
Sure, we could work that out by special arrangement. Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
So Mary, I'm giving you a heads up because it's not just walking up, a 50-foot driveway. It's
Well, I've been over to your house and I remember driving right up to the house when I was over there several years ago.
Right, but it's not
was it Elizabeth's house?
the road goes off to the left to the barns, and I mean going in is downhill. I guess going back up is a little bit
Yeah,
up.
Well,
But anyway, we could come
yeah,
and pick
we'll,
them.
we'll figure it out. Hopefully I'll be here that Friday. I'm back and forth still. So anyway, I'll be in touch with you. We can figure it out if I'm going to be here. Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Skip,
Thank
do
you.
you have that whole schedule?
I sent it to you. I will
When?
resend it if you didn't get it.
Yeah,
Could you
Did
send it?
everybody else get it?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Well, check it out and I'll,
Was that, you just sent it with the other stuff?
That was,
no, I sent it as I think I sent it as a separate thing because I got it
Okay,
from
I
Mary
missed it.
and I sent it out right away because it seemed to be timely.
Okay.
And I
I'll
didn't, no,
follow.
I didn't attach it to the agenda. It was a separate
Okay.
email, as
Okay.
was the plastic reduction thing was a separate email.
Okay, I'll find it.
All right, if you don't find it, let me know and I'll send it again.
Thank you.
Because it's really, it's a very good syllabus. It's a very good setup. I don't know who set it up, but it really works well. You know, you can
Now,
collect.
didn't Mary McNamara set this up?
yeah.
This program?
He's involved with several other people. I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah.
whatever they did, they got it together and
Mhm.
put this thing together, and it's comprehensive and it's readable and it's easy. You know, the last time we talked to her, she seemed to not know what the schedule is.
Right.
That
I
something
remember.
would happen, and this is the exact opposite of that. It's
Good.
exactly, you know, all the information you need about every event. So that's really great.
You sent it on the 15th.
I sent
Okay,
it on the 15th, Mike.
Yep.
okay, I'll
I
look
have
back on
agenda.
my
But not that.
Your archive.
Right.
archives.
Somebody knows what I'm doing.
Thank you, Linda.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. So what do we got next? Guess we used up everything. We gotta, oh, is there anything with the planning board? Maybe we can do the planning board if there's,
Particularly, I mean, there's quite a few developments that have been in the works for a while. A 24 unit one, 47 unit
You
one,
do me a favor.
and they're all, we
Go
talked a
in.
little
I
bit about
still
it last
have the
time.
File on, maybe I can have to
Leslie's
find it.
there. Hi, Leslie.
Leslie's here. Are you here, Leslie? Can you
I
hear us?
am, yeah, but I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, sorry, I totally forgot about this. Sorry, I'll
Just
be right
teasing
back in
us,
a minute.
huh?
So in reality, not much on the planning board right now.
Okay. Well, let me see.
Skip, are we
Well-
going to circle back to the leachate letter of the zero
Yes,
program?
I was
with
trying to put it
Zach?
off until
Yeah,
Zach
when
got here.
when Zach
Definitely
comes.
was gonna do
Right.
that.
Good.
Definitely, it's on the thing. I
Yeah.
mean, the only thing left we got here, waiting for Leslie now, is anybody have extra announcements? Nope. Okay. Okay, I guess I can start with the leachate letter. So after all our work on crafting a letter that wasn't abrasive or roped the town into any financial situations, there was 3 members of the board who weren't really for it. And in talking to Doug Meyer, who is the, he manages the transfer station and therefore has oversight over this leachate issue. He is actually working for, is Leslie's back? Okay, can you hear? Let's talk, maybe Zach will come in because it's important that he, reinforce what I'm saying. So let's do Leslie and see if Zach comes in. Leslie?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on for pollinator and EMC. We're kind of putting everything off because Zach's going to be late and we're trying to get everything done. Hopefully he'll show up. So
Oh, I'm going to be brief. I have
That's-
not been to the pollinator meadow to see what things are like. Let's see, is Linda?
aren't you
Oh, Linda's on
excited?
today.
Aren't you excited?
I am, but I'm so damn busy. So in any instance, I'm excited to get back to it. I am on the schedule for the Earth Week, Saugerties Earth Week. for that. So I think it's a Sunday, the 27th. I'll be at the Pollinator Meadow for 2 hours. Anybody that shows up, I'll, be happy to talk to them about the project and, what they can do to support native pollinators in on their own property, and how they might scale it. And yeah, so I have not had a chance to assess where we're at and then therefore to come up with a budget. But my thought is $500 or less should do whatever we need to do this year.
Okay.
Any comments, questions that Linda, you might want to speak to the conversation we had today.
Okay, yeah, and you correct me if I'm off base here. Yeah, I talked because I'd like to discuss ideas for involving or including the community. Like pitch it to schools, maybe at faculty meetings, see what the teachers feel, what their needs are. And then perhaps they could visit either from the high school or Cahill Middle School. Might even get volunteers, from some of their student groups, Key Club or whatever. And then that also opens up maybe the possibility of developing student programs. Science teachers might like a science study for plants or soils, art classes to draw, because the high school especially is within, walking distance. Things like that. And where I previously taught in Dwaynesburg, we developed a program where a local beekeeper got a grant through a school-based group to buy bee suits for the kids, the jackets and the helmets. And the third graders visited her farm, her bee farm, and got to explore. Each of them got to explore a bee frame, while others went on a walk to gather flowers and whatever. And so they had a study sheet where they gathered propolis and honey and wax and all that. It was wonderful. So it's a great educational tool. So these could be things down the road for us to look at. Maybe even pitch it to groups like the Blue Cats. You might even get volunteers to help with the meadow.
There's also the Boys and Girls Club, and there's a new environmental educator there. So I will bring that up with her. If you're, I don't want to rope you into too many things, but these might be, maybe they could be coordinated, or maybe the Boys and Girls Club want to come over there. You let us know how many times you are willing to, show it off.
Do they have a summer program, the Boys and Girls Club?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
on the ECC board, and the new environmental educator is just fantastic.
And who
Good
is
to
it?
know.
Really
So-
getting people out. He's getting them out
Yeah,
on the creek and the bend and everywhere. And the pollinator garden would be another one that I'm sure she'd be up for.
just bring them right there, and even if they're not helping, they're gonna just to learn to see everything in bloom, to
Yeah, yeah.
see the pollinators
I will
were attracted there.
I'll contact her and say,
What's her name?
Skip, what, is that Dorothy? Is that still
no,
Dorothy?
Dorothy's changed, and I've just, her name just slipped my mind. I'll
Okay.
get
Yeah,
up in a minute.
I think she's the one that volunteers for us at the Repair Cafe as well.
Yeah, so what's her name?
Yeah, and I'm losing it too. So
Right, so she's
yeah.
really a great young woman.
I'm gonna. Oh yeah, fabulous. Yeah.
Emily
No,
Gullinger?
no. Julia. There we go.
Julia.
Julia Gloninger.
There you go, okay.
And she and her husband both volunteer, and he helps set up and usher people in, and she does a visible mending workshop for us.
She's
I
really,
think she's also at the Middle Way School,
she might be, but
unless that was
I
Dorothy.
mean, Dorothy
then
was
it's-
really great. She had a lot of energy, but this woman's even,
Yeah.
she's got more things planned, and the way she looks at it and the way she's
Oh, yeah.
like
They're
really,
And they-
when Dorothy left, because how can you match that energy? But they got somebody in there that,
She and her partner live off the grid.
oh,
comes in-
really?
Yeah, she comes in and does visible mending because she can't cart her sewing machine because it's an old treadle. They have solar panels, so that's their electric.
She walks the
They're
walk.
amazing. Yeah, oh
She-
yeah.
She's
Oh, yeah.
down on smartphones. And with her kids, she says, you don't need that. And she herself only uses an old flip phone and doesn't text or anything. She's like, really walks the walk. It's really amazing. She's really a special person.
Yeah,
So.
she's great.
I don't know how many of you know about the Hudson Valley Bee Supply Place. They have, it's in near Kingston off of 209. And they have a frame that you can then watch the bees from
Yeah.
either side and watch them go in and out and fan the hive. And it's an amazing setup. And that started me thinking about, is it not I guess it's a bad idea to have a hive out there?
Yes, it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are allergic to bee bites.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and beyond that is they would be competing with the native bees that we're trying to support.
All
Because
right.
they're not native
They're
necessarily.
not native. They're no, and they're great for crops and they're essential for
Right.
crops, but we don't want them
Okay.
other than the ones that the meadow naturally brings in, but we don't want to raise them there. And then, yeah.
And it's too populated and it's too highly used.
That's what I was thinking,
But you
that there
can-
might be
you can-
people who are allergic.
They're aggressive where the native, some of them aren't even able to sting at the native pollinators, and including a lot of flies that they don't sting anyway, but a lot of the bees, the native pollinator bees don't sting.
So they do,
They're some of them are capable of it, but they're very reluctant to do it.
right. And I had a beehive probably 50 years ago now.
Yep.
And it was fascinating and interesting and
same here.
whatever.
It's
But,
a neat idea, but it's just not,
Not for that
unfortunately,
location.
it's not
this is
compatible
not the
with what
place.
we're doing
I
there.
get it.
Yeah,
They do teach
neat
classes
idea.
there. They do teach
Carol.
classes
Yeah.
there. And it's a great, to me, I love going there.
What's the name? What's the
Cool.
name of the place, Carol?
Hudson Valley Bee Supply.
And do
And
you
they
know?
supply many, I guess, of the agricultural farms around here with beehives who are interested, and they teach people on how to raise their own.
Do
Yeah,
you
it's-
know any
it's in
local
Sawkill.
beekeepers?
No, but they do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I personally don't know, but they
'Cause that would
obviously.
be who we'd like to connect with. Well, yeah, because I even saw one year at the Garlic Festival, and it really upset me because somebody brought in a bee frame. Well,
Uh-huh.
there were yellow jackets all over it
Oh,
because they brought, you can't have open
Honey,
honey
yeah.
at a garlic festival.
Right.
Nuts.
Yes.
So I walked away. I said, that's not a very smart idea, You can have jars of honey, but don't bring an open frame. Yeah.
Carol,
Okay.
is that the guy across from Heritage?
Yeah, or Costco, one of those.
Is he right near the
209.
yeah, I know
I
the
right?
guy.
Yeah, it's 209. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, you have the right
209.
place.
Yeah.
The excavator place is right behind them. I think they might be connected in some way.
Yeah, the same
Right,
woman
right.
that owns the excavator place owns the bee thing.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend who works there.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
Forget pollinator meadow. It's a great, besides the pollinator meadow, I should
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
it's a great place to go to.
You delete her.
All right,
No.
I'm gonna share my pictures of my beehives later.
Okay.
I don't have them any longer. I did have them for a
Oh,
few.
right.
And again, that's how I got involved. Well, one of the ways I got the school involved was I taught 4th and then 5th grade. And then I went to the middle school and I had and this is at the end of the year, the end of the school year, all the art students lined up to paint my hives. So my boxes. So yeah, they're
Great.
beautiful. Yeah, they had a good time.
Interdisciplinary.
Oh, you got it. You got it.
Interdisciplinary. That's what we
Oh.
used to do.
Okay, so do you have anything on EMC?
Yeah, the primary focus right now is there's a small team working on the statewide New York Association of Conservation Councils conference. It's going to be the 24th and 25th of October. And the overall theme is innovations, solutions for changing environment. And they're looking for ideas. I think they'll be they're probably I'm quite sure one of the site visits is going to be to the zero waste facility. I haven't heard what other sort of things they're thinking to do, but that is a focus.
What zero waste facility is this?
The one that I'm what those two, it's Shabazz and what's.
Right, but they've got a main facility in Clintondale and they've got some
I don't
community.
know. I think their main facility.
Okay, this is significant because we're gonna have a discussion on zero waste and
Yeah,
any
so
kind of interconnection between that and what we're doing here might be informative.
yeah, and people can sign up for the conference in the fall and go and do that. But and I know Hurley is represented at the EMC, and their representative was talking about that they are engaged or are
Yep.
starting to engage or are fully now
Yes.
engaged with the zero waste
Right.
business. So that really is it. They didn't have a guest speaker because the guest speaker became unavailable. So nothing
So
more.
when is that? When is
It is the 24th and 25th of October. The 24th is in-person lectures. The 25th is site visits of whatever innovative projects they are going to feature. I mentioned
that's
their
what that's
pollinator.
what it's called? Innovative projects?
It's innovations, solutions for a changing environment is the overall theme. And it's going to be at the Ukrainian Center in Kerhonkson.
Oh,
It's on
okay.
Route 4455, if I have the place right.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
And I early on when they were looking for projects, I suggested a site visit to our pollinator meadow, and they were not interested in that at all. They said that didn't fit their theme. So whatever.
Well,
for
Well,
you.
yeah. And the horse they came in on. So, I'm not on that team that's planning the conference, so they haven't really said, much of what is on the program.
Leslie, there's another pollinator garden on Montrose Street. How is that going? I never even knew it existed.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I know it's a visit there, a 1 hour visit there is part of this Earth Week thing.
Right.
So I was
It's
thinking to maybe
it's
get
very
there.
small and compact,
Yeah,
and it's very well done. It's like a tiny little park.
okay.
is-
And I heard
it is a
somebody did a
garden.
beautiful butterfly mosaic or something as
Yes,
part of
yes.
it. Yeah.
Ray
Yep. So
Stang did
that's much
that.
more
Oh,
artsy
right.
and gardeny than what we
It is,
have.
it's definitely a garden as opposed to our
Yeah.
meadow.
Yep.
But it's great because it's right off of Partition Street.
Yeah.
I encourage people to go over. They did a really good job, and I think
Nice.
the tree commission did it.
Nice.
I believe.
Rosemary Brackett.
Yes, right.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's really
Yeah,
it's really worth visiting.
I
It's right-
remember when she was trying to get volunteer help, and I was flat out and didn't have the time to give her a hand, unfortunately. But
right. It's
do you
very,
know, or did they label their plants so people know what they're looking at? Do you know of?
it's labeled. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Very
That's
well
great.
done and it's very
Nice.
artfully done.
It says
Oh,
you can
very
find
good.
them.
It's very
Yes.
worthwhile going over,
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
I think it says you can find them on Facebook, so it might be a place to find more information. And you can just Google them, which is what I just did too.
Isn't that one of the events for the Earth Week? Did I
Yes.
see
Yes.
that on I saw
Yes,
that on
yes.
the list, on the event list. Yeah.
I don't even know where Montrose is. Montrose.
About halfway down, if you're between Maine and down by the creek, it's about halfway in the middle.
Oh, one of those side streets.
On
Yes, right.
Partition, yes.
Is it like near
Okay.
Stella's or something?
Yes.
It's down farther,
Just below.
Okay, down toward the beach a little bit more.
a little bit farther,
Just a
right?
little-
Okay.
About
just a
another
little
2
bit
blocks.
Yeah.
And does it intersect Main Street?
Yes.
Like Main Street?
No,
and
no, no, no,
Montrose?
no. It's
It
Montrose and
doesn't.
Partition.
It intersects
Oh.
Partition.
Partition, you go down from
Heading
Stella's
towards Diamond
Stella's is
Mill.
on Partition. So you
Yes.
go down.
Oh, you know what? I said Main Street. I meant Partition. I
No.
meant like the Main Street. Okay, right.
Partition is the street it's on and Montrose is the
Is the
cross
side
street, and
street.
it's
Okay.
just a couple blocks down from where Stella's is.
Oh, okay. And it's right on the corner.
Yeah, right
Like
on the
you'll
corner.
see it if you're
I think
just
it used to be
walking
a
by.
bus stop
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
It's
Okay.
easy to miss.
It is? Oh, God.
I think so, yeah.
Well, once you walk by there, it's like
Okay.
Very well done. It's just a cute little refuge
Oh,
bit of nowhere.
I'll have to make it a point. I don't really walk there. I usually just drive through.
Same here.
Right. Okay, so that's it for EMC?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you wanted to say you're still, you talked to me about willing to complete till 26 and then
It's
somebody else
yeah,
wants to take over.
I think I think my 3-year term is up, and yeah, so my first meeting I went to was the end of November of 2022. So 22 to 23, 23, 24, 24. Yeah, it's possible that my term is up the end of this November. I'll find out. Yeah, that would be 3 years, I think.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
is a 3-year term. And so I would pass the torch at the end of the 3 years.
So somebody should think about that. We should have
Yeah,
a
it is
EMC.
it's once a month. The meetings are in Kingston in person. Um, there is a internet, there is a Zoom link. Their audio and visual has gotten better. It was horrendous to begin with, and now it has gotten better. But you don't count towards the quorum if you're online. You really need to go in person. So the meetings usually go from 6:30 to 8 o'clock ish, 8:30 latest. Oh, there is one more thing. Europa was leading the Department of the Environment, Ulster County Department of the Environment, and she took another job in her hometown of Poughkeepsie, and she's I guess leading their environmental office. So she has moved on, but she was just a great leader for the Department of the Environment.
That's the Ulster County Department of the Environment.
Ulster County Department
Yeah.
of the Environment. Yep.
I heard that I think she said that she is now the commissioner in Poughkeepsie now.
Yeah,
of
whatever the
Department of
head of their
Yeah.
environmental,
Environmental.
yeah, commissioner,
Great.
sick environmental commissioner. Yep. And she said it's her hometown.
I didn't know that.
She may even be able to walk to work for all I know.
Uh,
How ecological.
Yeah, right. I don't know for sure, but maybe she can
mhm.
bike
Yeah,
to
that-
work or something.
Actually, I was investigating some zero waste things with Aaron vis-a-vis the county, and that came up as part of the reason that they were having trouble implementing some of the plans they had thought of is that Europa had left and they
Oh,
were
yeah.
in transition, so it was an
Yeah.
excuse for not going forward on a couple of things. But that's
I think yeah, I think she left the last meeting was the 26th of March, and I think at the end of that week was her last week. So she hasn't really been gone, maybe but 3 weeks now.
right. So
Just to follow up on whoever is going to be the representative from the town on the EMC. I was the representative for many years, several years, and I found it was so important what the county does to have that liaison, to be
Mhm.
part of that network was so important. We found out about community solar and we
Yep.
got involved in that. We got the community climate greenhouse inventory because of Ulster County, because we were involved in that. And the speakers have been, my experience has been the speakers just brought forth ideas that
Mhm.
we either latched onto or didn't. And also because of the round table at those meetings, you can hear there's at least 11, 12 communities that are
Mhm.
on the EMC, and you can hear what other communities are doing.
Yep.
And that at least informed me as to what Saugerties might want to do. So it's a really important position, and it's been very, very, from my perspective and from my
Mhm.
involvement, it has been really, really helpful for Saugerties. So I hope
Good.
that,
so
Well, and I know there was when I was first on it, the number of communities participating had really shrunk, but it was post, it was as we were coming out of the worst of COVID. And I remember, Mary, you told me you won't have to go to in-person meetings, they're all online. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then I get this email, nope, now we're meeting in person. Welcome aboard. So, you know, I agree it's valuable. I just have got to make decisions on what commitments that I have, and there are too many at the moment.
Okay. So this might be timely before you leave that commission. If there's input that they have toward the county, there's two programs. I found this out investigating the zero waste thing, that there's a program called the Zero Waste Implementation Plan, which has been in committee since 2019. And now it may be
Oh.
turning around, and I guess Chris Hewitt just took over the what's called the Ecological, Environmental, and Sustainable Committee of the Council. But that is a program that informs everybody about zero waste programs. And it's really extensive. I can send you a copy of what it is. A very extensive program that would really be helpful to all the towns in the
Is that
county.
is that under the Energy and Environment Legislative Committee?
It's energy, environment, and sustainability.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
Chris
woman.
Hewitt is
Yep.
the hand. He may be trying to kick life into it. I think that's the thing that Manager Jo was heading up, but she is.
Yeah. Oh, she's heading up. Well, there is somebody on the EMC that reports out from that committee, and she
In
gives a
any
very
case,
extensive report.
in any case, is there if there's an opportunity to speak up, to say, get off your butts and put this in, you've been sitting on it for 5 years, it would be a very helpful program. I mean, they're in crisis about where to put, all this trash, and they've got this
Yeah,
implementation thing, which would reduce the amount, and they're sitting on it because they need a planner and nobody's put the $5,000 out. So
I
that's one.
know they're working on a oh God, what is it called? It's like a recycle reuse facility, and the legislature actually has agreed to put in the budget money. They've identified a space for it. I wasn't sure why it couldn't go on open land at the Recre Center, but for whatever reason, they've identified some space, but would be this kind of thing that like deconstruct buildings, save the materials, it goes there, artists, builders, whatever can
Right.
purchase it. So that is, I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but
No,
that
it's not what I'm
is,
talking about. No, it's
it's
not.
not,
I know
okay.
about that. But it's
Yeah,
called, it's ZWIP, Zero Waste
SWIP.
Implementation Plan. And it's
All
in
right.
that committee. If there's a chance to push for that, because I don't know why they're just sitting
Yep.
on their butts about that. And the second thing is the legislature is just, again, I was investigating, all these things with zero waste. And another thing came up, that the legislature just put a supplemental budget of $25,000 in to hire a firm to do zero waste trainings around the
Mm.
county, which would be great for Greenway. They would be probably the number one, but they've got to put an RFP out on it. And I think that may have what got held up by Aropa's leaving, because that department is not functioning up to, par right now. But that
Right.
money has already been okayed by the legislature, and it just hasn't gotten out. And Shabazz, this is off the record, was really upset because he thinks Jan Metzger is sitting on it. I don't think that's what's happening. I think just that her deputy, I forget her name. There's a bunch of deputy execs, and that person is trying to get it in. But that's another thing. I don't know what power the EMC has, but if that comes up, say, hey, we need to do this. Don't just sit there and not do it, because the money's there and ready to go. They just have to.
Yeah, the
So anyway.
EMC, but the EMC, that is their mission. Their goal, they're there to make recommendations to the legislature. So it's
Okay,
perfect.
recommend that ZWIP and the training the $25,000 training program be implemented, because they're both just sitting there and they've got this huge problem, and this is part of the solution. So anyway, off my
Certainly
soapbox.
can ask. I think that Mana Jo may start attending the EMC meetings. She did attend the last one, and she wants to, because the county climate smart committee or task force or whatever it was, dwindled down to like 2 people. So she attended the last EMC meeting, and she's been trying to get EMC to at least allow, at the beginning of the meeting to have the sort of the climate smart community stuff. So, and sort of at the county level. So she would be the one to ask about that.
Okay,
Right.
well, anyway, those are 2 programs that are ready to go. And it's just whatever, in the administration is holding them up. I don't
So
know
the
exactly.
2 programs are a training program and,
It's a $25,000 supplemental budget to put an RFP out for a company that can do zero waste training.
okay,
That just
that's
got
project
passed.
one.
That's one of them. That got passed in December. The other one has
Oh,
been in,
recently.
that's very, yeah, it's really recently. And
Okay.
for whatever reason, again, Greenway Enterprises, who do the zero waste at the Garlic Festival, would be probably number 1 on the list to make an RFP for that, because they can do that.
Let me
But
tell you, if that is a tight time, if we're only into April now, that was passed in December, that's not a long time frame to get together RFP in government.
whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm just telling you from the realism of
whatever
having
it's
worked
like.
in government my whole life.
Okay, so the other one is from 2019.
Okay. And what was that
And
project?
that's called the Zero Waste Implementation Program. And it's in a
So they have a
subcommittee.
plan. So they
They
have a plan to
I
implement.
can send you I've got I've got the plan, and there's an executive summary, and it just, apparently what it needs is $5,000 from somewhere to hire someone to do, I don't know, some administrative work on it. But it's a
Probably
big
not a
plan.
whole
It's
lot.
like it oversees a lot of stuff. And it was,
Mhm.
I think the education part of this, element of this is huge, because there's people that want to do stuff, but they don't know what to do. It's very
Mhm.
much like what I'm going to talk about with the zero waste program. There's there's a lot of things that can be done, but it just hasn't coalesced. These 2 things have passed and are ready to go.
Implementation.
So anyway, if
Yeah.
the lobby,
Maybe not ready to go, maybe because it's sometimes a plan is never implemented.
well, I can send you a copy.
Yep.
So anyway, I'll do that. Okay, but
Okay.
anyway, that would be something really to lobby for. Sometimes people just need to, get pushed. So
Okay, they certainly ask, and unfortunately with Europa not there, hopefully with Manager Green assuming she comes to the next meeting, because it would be kind of hard to put the brand new people that have just come on at the Department of the Environment
there's
on the
always an
spot about
excuse.
what's going on with this.
There's always an
Yep.
excuse not to do stuff. So anyway,
Mhm.
I was going to talk
Ask
about
them.
that way.
Yep.
That's significant
Push it.
because EMC might have, an
Yeah.
interested
Yep.
party that could push to get it done,
Yep.
because it's really important.
Yep.
Yes,
Sorry.
I just wanted to pick up on Leslie's point about the Climate Smart Committee at the Ulster County level. Just a little history on that. Vernon was the representative from Eastchester for a number of years. When he gave it up, Mike McIsaac, am I mispronouncing his name? He served on it. Then when he left, John Schumacher, I think maybe went to 1 or 2 meetings. So it has fallen by the wayside in Saugerties. And I think it would be helpful to your point to have, again, somebody from Saugerties be on that committee to represent Saugerties, again, to bring to the forefront what Saugerties has been doing, which is pretty amazing, and also to influence the legislature through that committee as to what Saugerties might need or what the other communities would need.
So I think that committee is defunct now, the climate, and so the idea is sort of bring that into the EMC.
That's what I was trying to get clear. There's 2 committees we're talking
There's
about.
2.
Right.
There's 2. One is the EMC, the Environmental Management Council, which is representatives from the different communities who advise the legislature. The other, I never really understood exactly what the role of the county committee was, but it seemed like a good way to network within the county at a different level, And
But that's the,
unfortunately,
yeah, it's,
you think they're going to wrap it into the EMC somehow, or I don't know.
well, I think that's what Manna Joe Green would like to do, but the scope of EMC is already such that it's, you know, a little hard to, so she wants to have like updates of sort of the climate, uh, smart community stuff as part of the EMC, which certainly makes sense. But she tried to keep that committee alive, and she said it just got down to two representatives, and it's just not.
Yeah, they
It's
either have
not
to revise
viable.
that, they either have to revise that committee and give it a charge and give it some direction. That would make sense. But anyway, not to.
Yeah,
not to belabor it.
and yep. So she I think is the lead of that, and that's why she's come to the EMC.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else with EMC or? Okay, so I started to talk about the leachate letter. So we worked on this leachate letter and we got it down to a point that it was not, you know, abusive, or it was not, didn't put the town in any kind of financial situation they didn't want to be. Zach brought it to, and I sent it to the town board, and the town boards have been looking at it for a while, and I pushed him last time, I said, what's happening? And he says, well, 3 of the members at least don't want it because it might affect the relationship between Doug Meyer, who is the, you know, the manager of the transfer station, and the representative DEC that he's working with. The idea of the letter was an overall thing to push the upper people in DEC to make rules that we could follow, because there are none, and that's what created the loophole. Even Zach said, I don't feel that way. You know, I think the letter was aimed at wasn't aimed at any kind of representative that wasn't doing his job, you know, at the transfer station. It was a separate kind of
It
issue.
certainly wasn't. No.
It's aimed at
But-
the commissioner level,
Right,
not
exactly.
not the engineer
I
level.
don't, you know, and I, to Zach's credit, he says, I didn't think it was inappropriate at all. But Doug Myers had reservations. And I think maybe even Freddie had reservations, although I don't know if I wrote to him about it or not. I have to take that back. But anyway, he says there's 3 on the council who don't think they want to support it. So as much as we did all that work and, you know, Zach's for it, I think I don't want to push anything on the town. I mean, we're to advise the town board, but I don't think we're in we advised them. We offered this up. It's too bad we did a lot of work on it, and I think it was, you know, appropriate, but apparently they don't. And I don't want to put Doug Meyer in any kind of uncomfortable position by pushing it, you know. So it's my feeling we should, you know, we advised him, we put the letter out. I think it's unfortunate that he didn't accept it. I was hoping Zach would be here to give more subtle details on this, because he talked directly to Doug Meyer about this and Fred about this letter. So he did his liaison job, and he said, I'm for this. I don't think there are objections. I don't see their objections. So that's where that stands. I'm sorry, but
A shame.
that's where it stands. And again, maybe we aren't aware of some subtleties that are going on in handling this situation. Certainly wouldn't want to upset the apple cart, because this is a major thing, and Saugerties could be in deep shit if you know they got this leachate. Right now, Hurley's in a really bad stage because they have no place to take theirs. It's costing them
Right.
$10,000 a load
Right.
to move it. So what we were afraid of, that, you know, the town would be in an untenable position. You know, I wouldn't want to rock the boat and find that did it. Again, Zach doesn't think that would happen, but you know, I'm not running the transfer station, so I can't, you know, I have to respect. I think we should respect his opinion. So that's where that stands. Anybody want to comment?
Could it be brought up at a later time, do you think?
I think we're going to have to monitor, we should monitor the situation and see what happens between Doug Meyer and, or the town and the DEC and how this leachate's handled right now. I don't even know the quantities yet, you know.
Let's hope that some other towns do put in such a letter and
Right.
activate DEC to do something.
Right. Yeah, because we're basically passively putting PFAS. It's not, I don't think it's a lot. I don't know. Rebecca Markin had some numbers, but I don't know. I don't know how they relate. So I'm not, again, I don't feel that I'm an expert on the subtleties of this. It just is. So it seems like something that a ruling from the top should come down. So I don't know. So that's where that stands. Okay, any other comments? Okay, so zero waste program. So to review, a few meetings ago, we talked loosely about, hey, the Garlic Festival did such a good job with zero waste. Maybe it could go on, to the larger Saugerties. One thought that because it was an event centered thing, that other things at Cantine, that model could be applied to that. So I talked to Josephine about it, and she said that Greg Chorvis was not really on board with it. I don't think he wanted to dedicate that amount of people to that kind of thing. Seems like it would be pretty straightforward, but again, I'm not running Cantine Field, so I don't know. What we mean, there's the Caribbean Festival and the Food Truck Festival and a bunch of other things. Not the baseballs notwithstanding, couldn't they just have them do PLA cups and stuff like that? But apparently it's a non-starter. They did approach him and he was not open to it. And Greg can be, here's what I'm doing, and no negotiation. So, but then she mentioned that further they were doing some work with Hurley and they were doing a quote zero waste. At this point, vis-a-vis a discussion I had with Stephen earlier, that term zero waste is like a moniker. It isn't, obviously you're never going to get zero waste. In the case of the Garlic Festival, what it meant is a major reduction in the food part and the utensil part of cups and stuff like that of what was generated there. So you shouldn't get the idea that this means that we're going to limit all waste and it's going to be zero. It's a moniker. It's a aspirational. So just when we're talking about that, keep that in mind. So
Skip, are you saying that Greg Chorvis is not for renewing the Garlic Festival?
no, that's not what I said.
Okay,
I
okay,
said that they're in negotiations to renew it. Kiwanis runs the Garlic Festival.
okay.
They hold it at Cantine Field, but Kiwanis hires Greenway to do the zero waste.
Okay, I see.
Where Cantine's involved is they help with some of the mechanics of, clearing the area for the roll-offs and having the space for the tents and stuff like that. So, but to further it with other Cantine events, Greg Shorvis didn't want to be involved in a greater
Okay, I see.
thing, which is unfortunate because it seems like a no-brainer. I mean, especially with littler festivals, doesn't seem like that much of an effort. But again, I'm not
Well, it
running.
would be, the Garlic Festival's 2 days.
Right, but if say the
Running
Caribbean
a full
all the Caribbean
department.
Festival, and you put out a couple of tents like they did at the Zero Waste, and you required all the vendors to have PLA stuff, and for one day or for 10 hours or whatever it is, you got them to do this, and Greenway would take them away.
Sure.
Actually, that's pretty, it seems like pretty straightforward, but you'd have to convince Greg.
But
Good
also,
luck.
Yeah,
it's
but if
Greenway.
you're asking them to do a program for the whole recreation department and that's a
No,
whole different ballgame.
not necessarily. We could do
Oh.
it, you could do it by individual. I mean, they have the food truck festival. They have the Caribbean Festival. It wouldn't be a requirement necessarily, but in each individual case that they had an event that involved food, that you could require the vendors to have recyclable, cups
Oh,
and
sure, you
saucers
can
and
do
everything
that.
like that. And you could set up a tent. They have 10 of them at the Garlic Festival. So at a smaller festival, you need one or two. Seems like it might be a simple thing. You do need volunteers. That's
the
one
thing.
thing that is for all these things, there's 140 volunteers to do the Garlic Festival for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
That's a pretty big commitment. So that's a looming thing. Although they talked about programs where they'd train people who would want to volunteer and they'd have a bevy. So you got the food truck festival. Okay, we need 10 people to spend a night. Okay, I'll go. Having a stable of people to come in and do it who are trained and, could be called upon. But that's all, unless Greg's up for it, then Elizabeth?
Skip, on the
yes,
point of
well,
volunteers, is it not Greenway who supervises and organizes and oversees the volunteer force?
It is true.
Yes,
It is true.
yes.
Yes,
So my
that's
next
fine.
question then is, if it were to expand to, let's just say, one other festival, food truck, just say one, would Greenway again be responsible for organizing and supervising the volunteers? Because that is a big, as you said, a big part of it.
Yes, that would to be determined. I mean, yes. And that's why I don't understand if Kiwanis Club runs the Garlic Festival and they hire Greenway to oversee that program. Why couldn't it be that whoever runs the food truck festival would hire Greenway? And all Greg would have to do was, I don't know what he'd have to do, really.
You'd have to provide the volunteers. I don't think Greenway.
No, not necessarily, because Greenway got the volunteers.
Yes.
And it would be incumbent upon them to rustle up some volunteers. And that's why Josephine brought up the idea of doing training sessions for volunteers and having them on base, in a stable saying, okay, we got an event, who wants to help out with this? And so you have people that you can call on
I
that
think
might want to do
I
that.
think that needs clarification, because I think with Kiwanis.
Hey, Elizabeth
Kiwanis
is
gets
waiting to
volunteers.
speak and we're speaking
Oh,
at
sorry.
at a line.
Okay,
Um,
Elizabeth?
Yes, well, I volunteered at the Garlic Festival for the last 4 years, and the last summer I turned 80, so the 4 hour period was quite a long time, and there were I was working with younger people, which helped. Josephine was very helpful. When I said, I need backup, or I'm really getting tired, she came over in her truck, and I mean, she's very responsive, but I think there really needs to be maybe 3 hours instead of 4 hours, or there needs to be some kind of adjustment in the volunteer responsibility, perhaps, and a lot of the people a lot of the volunteers, I had the impression last summer, were students or were from SUNY,
Yes.
one of the SUNY. And that's, they're in their 20s or early 30s, so that's, I think that was helpful, but I I don't know what the answer is, but it is a big, 4 hours is a long time each shift.
Right. I volunteered also. And, everybody has a different, stamina level.
Right.
And I think most of the people have that level to do 4 hours. So, not that I don't sympathize with you,
Right.
but we'd have to talk with Josephine. I mean, she has the knowledge about what it takes. If you dropped it down to 3 hours, then you'd have to increase
Sure.
the number of volunteers by 30% or whatever to cover it. So there is that. And there are a lot of young people want to get involved in, ecological things. And so a lot of them are students who could work 8 hours,
Sure.
So, I mean, that's,
No.
I'm almost 82. And also, but most of the people that were volunteering are much younger than us. So I think
Right.
that was overall. And she actually was sensitive to your situation and volunteered to spell you. And I've seen that in other cases where there was me. So their model, probably shouldn't judge their model. They've worked it out. I mean, that's a very complicated thing to do. So
No, well, last time I think I brought an art stool to sit on, and there are accommodations one can make. Um, but I was just glad to see a lot of younger volunteers too.
right,
That's all.
right. Okay, who's next? Mary?
Yeah, I just where I'm coming from with this is okay, Greg is not up for it. Okay, but has it been defined as to what his responsibilities would be? I'm going back to my original point about volunteers. Is it defined that Josephine would get the volunteers, take care of the volunteers, and his responsibility or his crew's responsibilities would be A, B, C, D? That's it. Has it been defined for him in terms of what his responsibilities would be? Because when you
I
think
can't
about,
answer that. I can't answer that question.
but I think that's really important that he understands what he and his crew would have to do.
Right.
And it seemed to work as it has worked for the Garlic Festival.
Yep.
So if it could be put in that terms for another
Yep.
festival, I don't understand. Well, we'd have to hear from him why he would
Right.
not be willing to.
And we'd have to hear from Josephine. I didn't push it because she, said that there was resistance there. Let's move on.
Okay.
So, I mean, at another time, we can talk to her further about it and find out, we could even, I think Leanne has something to do with the food truck festival. Maybe we could approach, rather than approach Jorvis, maybe we could approach those saying, say, hey, do you want to have a zero waste thing? And then if they were the hiring factor and Greg didn't have to do it, all he had to do is move some barrels around. He was very happy with what happened. Greg
Yes.
was.
Yes.
He was ecstatic. He was not a believer and he became a believer. So that might be an approach by approaching the promoter rather than approaching Greg.
Also, just to cut to the chase, what are his concerns? What are his concerns, and then find out what his concerns are, and then address it. So anyway, let's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, yeah. First of all, the Garlic Festival was a volunteer thing that the promoters wanted it and took total responsibility for it and got the volunteers. And to that extent, you had 40,000 people there, and Greg didn't have a problem.
Right.
So if the model is set up in that way, that the promoter is responsible, coordinated with Greenway, and it's the same basic model on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
I don't see that if we talk to Greg on that level.
Yep.
I
That's a
agree with
possibility.
Mary. He's saying, I'm guessing he's saying, I gotta get the volunteers, I gotta get the staff.
I don't know what the
That's the
discussion.
way that the department people think. So if it's presented the way the Garlic Festival is, with the promoter being responsible, it's a doable thing. These other things are much smaller.
Yep.
And very doable. I mean,
Yep.
the truck festival, if you've ever gone to it, it's not a big deal.
Right. I agree.
It's 8 or 10 trucks.
I agree.
It's not a big deal.
Right. Okay. So, anyway, so this was a diversion from the main topic here. So her suggestion was that they had started a zero waste. They had actually made a proposal in January of 23 for what they called an unsolicited proposal of a zero waste program upgrade for Saugerties Transfer Station. I sent you all that last time as an attachment. It was presented to Doug Meyer, who looked at the numbers and said, that's not in my budget, and deferred on it. I think he had other concerns too. But in any case, so then decided to push to get a presentation to the town board, which happened last night. And they made the presentation, they had a PowerPoint, and I was hoping Zach would be here. Steve was here, you can add, and Linda was there. If I'm not being complete or you want to add to my comments on this, please feel free, because I'm not a great note taker. So they presented a PowerPoint. One of their main points was that any program is not a one size fits all. That depending on the desires of the community and what they could do would determine what kind of program would have to be. And so different situations, could be tailored. They had presented that thing that I sent, the proposal, but they didn't present it at the meeting last night. I don't know why. Hurley has done a similar thing. They gave a contact and did some slides of what Hurley had done. They're in the early stages. And so that's also available. I also sent a link. You can just say Town of Hurley Zero Waste, and it pops up. And there's all these things that you can go to. You can see their agreements and stuff like that. They immediately veered off to the contractual issues involved, and saying that Hurley already did all these contracts, they did RFPs. So all those models are there. So it would cost a lot less to set it up for Socrates because they wouldn't have to go through all the legal challenges. I thought that was a little bit of a cart before the horse, but nevertheless, they offered that up as a positive thing, that Hurley's always involved. They did models for the agreements, models for resolutions and stuff like that. So templates are already there to do that. So that's a positive thing. They mentioned the initial thing they did with Hurley was an audit. They selected volunteer households to separate their garbage and weigh it, so that they could get an idea of what the average household in Hurley produced in terms of organics. Now, again, this is a zero waste program, but they're mostly looking at organics. So as Linda said before, well, zero waste, what about mattresses and refrigerators and stuff like that? This program that they're offering and the proposal they made was mostly about compostable organic food scraps. And their home composting, the community composting, and their facility in Clintondale all center around that. There wasn't a lot of talk about what to do about this thing that you mentioned, Leslie, pulling usable stuff out and, charging for mattresses or whatever you do with bottles and cans and separating and stuff like that. That wasn't at all addressed in this. So again, the zero waste moniker in this case was being presented in terms of the organics involved. So this audit, they chose, I don't know, 22 families, which is 1% of the families in Hurley, to do this separation. And on that, they would go to another level of that to confirm that kind of ratio of stuff you could pull out at that level and how much you could save that way. So that was one concrete thing that they said. Then they jumped to granting. I had encouraged them, saying, well, part of the thing that Doug has is, his budget. So they talked a little bit about granting, that there was a lot of granting available. The granting was kind of aimed at different aspects of this whole thing, but nevertheless, there was grants around to help out. They emphasized that they've been involved in recycling and composting for years, and they had a lot of knowledge about it. They worked with things as disparate as schools programs, down to a level of third and fourth graders. And then they started talking about community, how that whole thing snowballs, that part of your community does it and it catches on. And in fact, they also mentioned that the Hurley board, 3 of the people on the board actually were home composters and were very proud of it and reached out to the rest of the community to spread this word so that there was more acceptance. So that's all, this is all part of their, wrap. Community building, exchange of ideas. Now, they had a lot of vision like that, but there was not a lot of concrete programs that they brought forth. And I'd had a discussion with Shabazz. I went down to New Paltz the other week, and I thought and there was supposed to be some people from Westchester, and I thought it would be a larger tour and demonstration of what a transfer station was. It was actually of what they call community composting, where if someone didn't want to do composting in their backyard, they could just bring their bags of compost of food scraps to this area and dump them. And they had this non-odor stuff and this stuff that discouraged pests and stuff like that, turned it into compost. And they had a setup there to demonstrate. And it was a very together setup. They got great compost out of it. And it was connected with a community garden. So that's another vehicle to take care of, pull the waste out and take care of it. They didn't mention that at the meeting. When I talked to him about that stuff, he said, well, the town has to produce an RFP for us so that we can give them, ideas on that. And I said, well, if they're not knowledgeable of what's available, then how can they do an RFP? And it went, this conversation kept going around in circles. So, and I didn't hear anything last night that they didn't even show the proposal that they had made before, which has a couple of elements on it that you could say, oh yeah, I want to do that. Oh yeah, I want to do that. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and said, the waiter coming up and said, well, what do you want? And he said, where's the menu? No, well, what do you want? Well, where's the menu? So I found that a little bit tough. Not that they aren't able to do that, but somehow in their approach, they really want the town to produce an RFP, I don't know out of where, to present to them and the larger community. It's an RFP, it's for everybody to bid on. So I was a little frustrated at that part. So, and like Steve said, the town doesn't really know what they want and they don't know what the town wants. So it's like kind of back and forth. So that was part of a kind of a frustrating part. Now, I think they've been very successful. They've got a great composting system at Clinton, and they've done a great job at the Garlic Festival and all that. But at this point, it seems kind of a moving target about how we should go forward. So after the meeting, I wrote Zach and Leanne and Fred and said, what does the board feel about the presentation last night? Do they have enough information to produce an RFP? And third, if number one's true, but number two isn't true, what information do they need to go forward on this? Zach said he was impressed with the presentation mostly because of the granting opportunities. Leanne wrote back that she'd have to talk to the rest of the board, but it might be smart to put it out to the whole community to be aware of before it was, foisted on them. She's still stinging from the feedback from CCA. I don't think it's the same, but anyway, that was her reaction.
Skip, this is basically for people that go to the transfer station. I mean, I go to the
It
transfer
could be.
station.
It could
I
be.
go to the transfer station, but of course we compost everything, so I have no food stuff. So I bring my recyclables and my cardboard and some stuff, but I don't bring any stuff there. So I mean, of our group here, how many people use the transfer station? So it's me and Linda.
I mean, I do. I mean, I don't have, and I
That's great.
compost, right? Yes.
So the vast majority of people are getting commercial pickup. So are we just talking about people that use the transfer station? And if for this program?
And what his reaction to that is, tell us what you want to do. If we want to include somehow, that's a tougher sell. They're starting from composting, trying to spread what we're doing already in composting, and then maybe communicating and engaging
Okay.
more and more people. So
Well, I'm confused because is this a composting program or is this separation of organics, which are then brought to the RRA,
yes,
which has a tremendous composting program? So,
right. Which is almost at capacity according to him.
pardon
So
me?
like I said, zero waste. This presentation was centered on those organics. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean we'd have to limit it to that, but yes, that's what he was talking about. And that Shabazz are requesting what we'd like to see. So that's not like it's off the table, that something couldn't be developed with the haulers. In my conversation with Shabazz, it's in the hauler's interest in some sense to take that out of the thing. They get so much for, carting those two cars, so they don't have to do
Well,
the,
that's a different story. That has nothing to do with the.
well, it addresses the thing of people who don't self-haul and whose interest it might
Right.
be to create a more easily accessible place to do the food scraps. So,
Because I don't mean to monopolize, but if someone, let's say I go to a transfer station, but I don't compost, and I can separate out my food stuff. I'm not charged for that
right,
at so there is an economic, for those that go to the transfer station, there's an economy of separating out your
right.
food stuff and
Yeah.
bringing it to a program there. So
Yes.
that's a very doable, or
Yeah.
it seems like it's a
Yeah.
good, it's an advantageous to our citizens to do it.
Yes.
But it's not a composting program.
It's,
You
it
have,
should be.
that's what happens when they do. It's composting because once it gets to the transfer station, it is composted.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, those people don't have to, that's the second level of it. If you don't want to compost at home, you take your scraps here and a community compost pile will do it. And then
Okay.
so that's why it's compost, because you got to do something once you separate it out.
We already have a food composting
I was
program
gonna
there.
say.
We do. You have a food collection program, and
But
it's at its
food
max.
collection, right?
And it's at its max. And their idea is to increase the volume of that separation, which then the company that's doing it now can't handle. It's more than they can handle. They're right at capacity now.
Okay.
And also there are methods, there's a lot of problem with odor and with maggots and stuff like that, which Greenway has a solution for. So, Elizabeth?
Yes, well, my impression was from I think something that Shabazz or Josephine said was that they accept meat scraps, whereas because they have the capacity down in New Paltz to take care of it, whereas in home composting, at least we don't, we do organic food scraps without meat. I'm vegetarian. I cook meat for Stephen sometimes, but at any rate, it seems to me that I was very impressed when we stopped by the Y the Y had a community garden right by it where, and I'm not sure who ran it. I think it was high school students, but that would be a venue for people, or at least an educational venue, it seems to me, for community gardens to encourage composting.
Yes,
I don't-
that's exactly what's happening in New Paltz.
Okay, good.
So, and that's an element. That's an element.
Okay.
Linda?
Yeah, Skip, two things I want to address. One, you mentioned going to the restaurant and asking what they had to serve and all that. And I was thinking about that after we talked about it last night. But I look at it, use a little slightly different analogy, is let's say the town decides what they want. They want to go out to dinner and have meat and fish. So they request a proposal. They don't go to the restaurant yet. They request a proposal from the restaurants. Who of you served meat and fish? And maybe restaurant A, B, and C would say, we do, we do, we do, and then you would decide which one you want. So I think that's what they were trying to address.
Okay, but where the analogy is weak, I just use that analogy because of a menu. Where the
Okay.
analogy is weak is the town knows they want meat and fish.
Right,
At
right.
this point, you don't know, there isn't the institutional knowledge to know what systems work and will work with zero waste. So in
Yeah,
the case that you know what you want to eat,
yeah.
in this case, you don't know what you want to eat.
But
That's
then,
the point. That's the point, that it's,
Yeah.
back and forth that, well, what do you want? Well, I don't know what I want. Well, tell us what you want.
let me check first, pick up again. But then the other
Steven?
part, what they would
Wait, I don't
provide.
think Linda finished.
I'm
Oh.
sorry. I'm sorry.
The other part was what they would provide. They said depending on what the town wanted, they could have, there might be some people who wanted to have backyard composting. They could do that. There might be those who had like a community pickup. So Mary, this is how it would be different from now. Right now, every one of us who wants to compost our food scraps has to drive to the transfer station. In their presentation, the way they would do it, there would be someone to come around and collect that, either at a community location or at a satellite location, that kind of thing. So, and they could offer a drop off at a particular location as well. So they suggested that they had the flexibility to offer several different formats for that.
Right. I don't think they would, I don't think one of those offerings was a home pickup.
No, they
mentioned
said they would do, they would let you could have home composting.
Yes,
You could
but
have
I thought what you said was home pickup.
no, home composting and then like a community satellite.
Yes,
place to
yes,
pick up.
yes.
Yeah.
All these things are things that we could put, or the town could put an RFP out of. But they weren't, we didn't get a menu. We're pulling these out of our experience, not from what I experienced, what you experienced, from, not from the presentation. So that's why it was difficult.
And I think the other weakness, well, there's a couple weaknesses. One, just the getting the word out, and doing that, the PR. But two, addressing all the other waste,
Okay.
Because when they said zero waste, I really was confused. I said, wait a minute, that's
Right.
not
Well,
zero
that's
waste.
why I explained, what they're talking about. And that could be put in,
Yep.
this has to go, it has to be a whole thing, not just the compost. Stephen?
Am I heard? Yes. Okay. Uh, Skip, after we talked this afternoon, I realized that I think that Greenway has a better plan than we thought. I believe, looking at what Hurley did, Hurley put out in 2022 or so, so-called request for, it wasn't proposals, qualifications. That's right. They said, we want to, who is qualified to propose and then they had a name for it. It was something like a municipal waste reduction program. I don't remember exactly, the words would count, but the idea probably that most of the tonnage of the waste that would be reduced would be organics. And they put this out and they got only one proposal back, and that was from Greenway.
Right.
And so they looked at it and said, hey, this looks pretty good. Let's move ahead. So I think what Greenway, in a sense, wants Saugerties to do is the same thing.
Yes.
See who's qualified to develop a a proposal to, let's say, let's say the goal is to reduce the amount of organic food waste generated by the citizens of Saugerties and the businesses from 1,500 tons per year to 500 tons per year, delivered to that goes out to be burned in Seneca Lake, or wherever the ultimate
You know,
place is. If it isn't composted, I think it's Seneca Lake, 450 miles away. So if that's the goal, then what they proposed in their unsolicited proposal to Socrates is a way of getting started on that, and it actually is not necessarily wholly coherent, but takes a four-step approach. So I was saying I thought they were, I almost like Linda's analogy a little better now than the menuless analogy. But
And what's
what
that?
the,
Vocalize that again.
I like Linda said, the town said, we want this and that. Who will serve us this and that? And then you go out, meat and fish, and you look for the restaurants that say we'll serve meat and fish. But in this case, Hurley said we want meat, fish, and salad, and nobody answered except Greenway.
All right, but what were their, now drop the analogy and tell me what they actually said.
I have to look back at the exact
Because
title of.
my thing is that we don't necessarily know what we want unless we can put it in those vague terms.
Well, I think okay. I'll say, what do we want? We want a program that will reduce by 50% the quantity
Okay,
of organic kitchen or municipal waste that ends up being burned in Seneca Lake.
all right. Okay, fine, great.
That I think would be the request for qualifications, and Greenway could step into that, and then we'd have to decide. The town board would have to decide: is this going to do the job? But I think that's a good gambit. Now that I recognize it.
Okay, great. They said that there's a variety of things that is available. And if we do it in terms of overall aspiration rather than specific program, that's the switch. You know,
Mhm,
you're saying,
mhm.
you know, here is the concept of what we want to do, not necessarily the method that we want to do.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That makes sense. And then including what everybody said here, I'm throwing this out because it seems so amorphous right now. I'm trying to get something down so that we can look at this. And I'm sorry that Zach's not here because we want the town board's perspective on this, on how we can approach this. Or whether we, you know, maybe we don't even have to approach it. You know, we got them to do the presentation. There's the presentation. Take off. Maybe we don't
Yeah.
even have to be involved. I mean, we did one thing that we needed to do, get a presentation in front of the board. So do we need to go any farther? That would be a question to Zach.
Can we ask
All these
the
things we're
town-
talking about, you know. Any
can
comment?
we ask the town board if they're interested in pursuing anything, and then we could start to investigate as an environmental group, but let's see if they even have any interest.
I put the emails out to
Yeah,
Fred, Leanne, and Zach. And I was
and,
hoping that Zach would be here tonight to give a perspective.
right,
They would be interested if he was especially heartened that there were financial, you know, support
yeah, okay,
possible. So, you know, they might say that. I don't know. But the email did go out. And so
okay.
that's the report. I don't know where to go with it. You know, I agree with you about the overall reduction is just not organics. But I think the recycling program is in place already. And there's just, I think that there are people like us who, I got a worm bin. I take all my scraps and give them to the worms. I have nothing in my garbage, and I would be involved in that audit program, and I'd show the weight, and nothing would be,
Me too.
I'm using, and you're composting yours. So the other thing is, I don't know how typical those people who volunteer to do an audit would be of the
Right.
community. You're swinging to the choir here. Or you're asking the choir to suggest the songs.
Right.
So anyway. So anyway, that was the presentation. And again, I think feedback from the town board is important. And what we do, accomplishment number one, at least we got the thing on the table. So it's on the table now.
Yeah.
And I see that it's going to be a job to suss it out to where it's something that's doable. And so that's it. Any other comments?
I hope the town board shows some interest, because I think this is a very worthwhile thing to go for.
Okay.
And we can nudge them along, but if they yet, that's said enough.
Right. Well, again, when the liaison shows up, we'll tell her. And again, I have a lot of dealings with Leanne, so I can talk to her as a friend, and see what happens. And I think Zach has shown himself to be positive toward the things that we proposed. So I think that he will be an advocate toward there, and we'll see the reaction, Okay. Are we done? Any more comments? Any more announcements?
Did somebody do an Earth Day report? Did I miss that?
Oh, well, Mary
There
was
was
gonna be
nothing?
here. I sent
Oh.
out, did you get the schedule I sent out?
Yeah, I'm really glad to see that out.
Me too. And did you
yeah, I
realize
was
that
like,
you can click on it and it tells you each thing?
yeah, it's awkward to use, at least
Really?
unless I haven't figured
Oh,
out. But
no,
yeah, I click on it, it shows it, and then if I want to move to something else, I have to go back to the beginning all
Oh,
over
I
again.
didn't have
that
that.
didn't happen to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
No, but I thought it was great. I mean, there's the list of
It's
events.
great. I
It's-
was shocked because the only
Me
thing
too.
I'd heard about
Me
was
too.
the thing at the Orpheum, and I thought
Right,
this is
right.
how are they gonna now getting the word out? Got to get the word out, but
And
yeah,
she wants it to send out to as many people as possible. So I
yep,
sent it out to you guys and, so send it out to other people that you think,
yep,
Yeah.
because I think now it's a tangible thing that you can say something
right,
about or
yep,
read something about. So,
yeah. People have social media, posted on social media.
right. Yeah. So,
Yep. All right.
okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
So
Second.
moved.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
all.
Right.
Thank you.
Skip, one more thing.
Hey.
Skip, I thought you gave a great discussion about the Greenway, and I really appreciated the work you've done in the past of visiting these sites and looking at the documents. You did a lot of homework on this.
Yes.